Most marketers are still following old playbooks written decades ago. The rules have changed, but the advice hasn't. Flipping the playbook is your license to rebel. This is your front row seat to finding out how leading CMOs are tearing up the old rules and building strategies that move the needle. If you're tired of being told that this is how it's done, let's flip the playbook together. Here's your host, Reza Mayandin.
How do you build a marketing engine based on trust, word-of-mouth recommendations, and organic content, rather than the polished campaigns and paid traffic? Jonny Inglis has done just that. He's the co-founder of the wine platform WineDrops, and he's my guest today as we flip the playbook and discover how he built a brand that turned customers into advocates and scaled for absolute growth and authenticity. Jonny, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Let's start by explaining the business. What is WineDrops?
So at its most simplest, WineDrops is a private membership where people pay an annual membership to get access to trade level pricing on wines. In terms of the wines that we do, we only do the best wines in the world. So things that have been critically acclaimed or they have a great online reputation. And by virtue of being a member, you can get between 40% to up to 80% off these world's best wines.
I am a customer of yours. I've been an advocate of yours, but let's bring that to life for our listeners. Give us a flavor of the brand. Bring that to life for us.
So I think the brand really accurately reflects the founders. So we're not wine experts. And it's not like we have a lifelong passion in wine, but we do have a lifelong passion in building businesses and providing value to customers. And so when we started building our wine portfolio, we didn't have any personal idea over which wine should be a part of that portfolio. We just wanted to provide people access to the stuff that they're already buying, that they're already interested in at a better price. And so I think that really accurately describes the WineDrops brand. We're not snooty. We don't have a defining opinion on the wines that people should drink. We just listen really carefully to the wines that people already want. And then we apply incredible technology, great customer service, and really efficient marketing to get you those wines at a great price. We're far more interested in the customer than in the wines that we sell.
Okay. And when it came to the marketing side of it itself, when you started shaping the marketing of WineDrops, what was the core problem that you were trying to solve to begin with?
Core problem is all around the pricing of wine. So the classic story I always tell is the story of me going on holiday as a kid with my dad to countries like France and Italy. And what my dad would do is he would stock the family car full of wine in these countries. So big that we'd have to put our luggage on our laps, and that my dad would be sweating as we'd cross the Channel Tunnel because we've got more than the personal allowance of wine in the car. And he's doing this to save a bit of money. And if you knew my dad, then you would know that was very important to him. But it's very important to a lot of...
I am from Yorkshire, so I can share that pain with you.
Yeah, so if you've got like a boomer dad that also coincides with like a touch of autism, then you know how important it is for these guys to save like pennies here and there. And that was absolutely the case with my dad. And the reason why he's saving money is because the supply chain in Europe is much more efficient. Wine goes directly from the farmers to the supermarket shelves like Carrefour or Super U. And you go into these supermarkets and you can get excellent wine for between 5 and 10 euros a bottle. Once you come back to the UK, things are very different. There's far more middlemen in the process. There's import agents, export agents, there's wholesalers, there's retailers, and there's people in between all of those steps. You're talking wine passing through at least 4 to 5 people before it hits the shelves. And that's 4 to 5 times less value for money that you get by virtue of buying it in the UK as opposed to France or Italy. And the core problem, going back to your question, the core problem that we were trying to solve with our marketing is, how do we communicate that you can get much better value for money by buying on WineDrops? We do everything ourselves. So we act as the import and the export agent. We ship it ourselves. We warehouse it ourselves. As you know, we sell it direct to consumer on an app with incredibly low overheads and really efficient technology. And as a result, that's how we're able to unlock these discounts of between 40 to 80% on these world's best wines. So that's the core problem we're trying to solve. And our marketing is all geared around, you can save money with us.
Yeah, and it's quite fascinating the way you do it as well. Neither when I look at the organic content or ad content of WineDrops, is not overly polished, yet it clearly works. Was that a deliberate choice?
Yeah. When we think about how to create a great ad, pattern interruption is one of the most important concepts. So how can your ad stand out against the noise? And we realized in the wine industry, particularly, you've got legacy businesses, even businesses that are considered innovative in the wine world, like Naked Wines. They started in 2008, 2009. And so by today's standards, their marketing content and tactics are relatively dated. And so what a lot of that ad content is it's quite polished, it's nice photography, it's high production video, it's TV ads, radio ads, that sort of thing. And what it perhaps lacks is something that we see going on really well in other categories, which is UGC content, scrappy founder ads, pattern interruption, thumb stop hooks. And that's something that we really focus on. That said, when the consumer's expectations change, so will our marketing. So if people now expect this pattern interruption, scrappy, organic, authentic stuff, that's going to stop working. And then we're going to pivot back to the high production or
Okay.
something else that we haven't thought about yet.
No, that's amazing. And how did you decide what content would genuinely help customers rather than promote just the brand?
We don't have very strong opinions over what sort of content will land with customers. What we've built instead is a really efficient and high volume creative asset production engine. So, each week we'll be launching a couple of hundred ads, and we'll be creating, 50 different pieces of content. And we will allow the algorithms to choose which pieces of content are resonating with customers. We have tried things across the spectrum. We've tried stuff that is of genuine value to customers, like education. We've tried marketing angles which pitch some of the softer aspects of the WineDrops app, like curation. But the thing that really lands with people is saving money. And we think that taps into a really powerful reality of a consumer mindset is, I hate getting ripped off. And that's what we try to stop with the WineDrops app.
Okay, all right, that's amazing. You touched on, you said you launch 100 pieces of ads and pieces of content every week. What signals you that the approach you're taking or the content that being released are working? So what signals do you look for?
Primarily, it's CAC. So cost of acquiring a customer. That's tracked through all the way back to the Facebook ad account. So we can see on a content by content level which ad is the most efficient at acquiring a customer. And then you can make broader conclusions based on the content of that ad. So you could say, okay, this has a great CAC and it's focused on saving money. Let's create more stuff around saving money. That's the primary signal that we look at. You can also look at other stuff like click-through rates, CPMs, CPAs, but the focus ultimately is, does that ad, is it successful in acquiring a customer?
Okay. So you've got the ad pieces of content, but the other part of the engine that certainly I was introduced to and I've recommended to other individuals is your recommendation engine. And recommendation seems to be at the heart of WineDrops growth. How did you design for that? How did you get to that point?
By recommendation, do you mean like word of mouth referral?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I would say that we're not experts on this, and perhaps you came across it as a result of word of mouth referral. I think we can still do a huge amount more on this. So we're definitely not experts, but we do have some opinions on it. So the most important thing, if you want to build a successful referral business, is to acquire the right customers. And to acquire the right customers, you need to understand the leading indicators of high customer performance. So, for example, a leading indicator of a good customer for us is someone who is active on the app on a daily basis, is someone who places wine orders in their first day. Those are high expectation customers. Those are people who instantly understand the app, they understand what it offers to them, and therefore they can effectively communicate that with their friends and neighbors. If we don't have an idea of what makes a good customer, then we will be acquiring a bunch of crap that would never refer us because they are not high expectation customers. So we have identified that the best customers place an order, a wine order, in their first day. So we call that the first day purchase rate. Everything that we do is based on increasing that first day purchase rate. A really good example, Chamath Palihapitiya at Facebook talks about this a lot, where he said, I think they had like a metric that matters, which is you wanted a Facebook user to do one of three important actions in their first session. It's like poke someone, add a friend. I can't remember. Any of you listeners can look into this. But I think it's really important for any company to zone in on what is the metric that matters, what is the leading indicator of customer performance that you can really focus in on.
Okay, this is really fascinating. So the CACs, when you're trying to acquire a customer, and then you've got your first day metric that you're looking at. How do you go about optimizing that? And do you measure that on daily basis? And then if you see there is drops, what do you do around that? Because that seems like a very, very key lever and key metric to look at.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here. Once you've decided your metric that matters, let's say for us, it's the percentage of users who place an order in their first session.
Yeah.
Called the first day purchase rate. First thing is to make sure that you are measuring this accurately and on a daily basis, and that you have the accountability built up in your teams to check that on a daily basis. A classic problem that we've had in the past is we set up these queries and then nobody looks at them. And so you have to have the accountability set up in the team that someone is responsible for it, someone is checking up on it. Second important point is you have to know the constituent things that build up to moving the dial on that metric. So let's say it's first day purchase rate. Okay, well, a really important constituent metric would be daily active users. You can't convert someone if they're not on your app.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to boost daily active users. Another thing is like app onboard completion rate. You can't convert someone to make a purchase if they haven't created an account, added a payment method, selected a plan. So your metric that matters, it could be really granular, but there will still be building blocks that you can shift that metric. And then finally, you have to have a really robust way of coming up with the initiatives that are going to move that metric. So this is just ideation, coming up with a list of ideas that will move the needle, but then grading those initiatives based on the likely impact of actually moving the needle and the ease of implementation. So assign a score of 1 to 5 on likelihood of impact and ease of implementation, and you're choosing the stuff that sits in that top right quadrant of easy to implement and has a high likelihood of having an impact.
So am I correct to think that your smooth and satisfying experience is because your marketing team is closely working with your product team?
Yes, I guess the most, yeah, it's a good question. I think marketing and product often sit at loggerheads with each other because the marketing team want to always come up with more and more aggressive promises that are harder and harder to deliver on. And the product team want to consistently manage expectations so that we can do more than you expected. You get onto the app and it's, wow, it's even better than I expected. And those two things are always going to be at a positive tension with each other. And I think that tension is good because the more crazy stuff that the marketing team promise, the more our product and buying team have to level up to solve for those promises. So I don't think we have like the smooth workflow that you're describing. I think we have intentional positive tension.
Okay.
I think what is important though, and this is a change that we've only just made, is that the product team sits across the whole funnel. So right from where the customer leaves the ad, it's the product team's responsibility to create something that feels super seamless, easy to use, and uh, you know, consistently levels up the customer expectation.
And when it comes to the customer expectation and retention, LTV, what do you do as part of your marketing that keeps that outcome going higher and higher? Or is there a wider strategy that you put into both on the product side and the marketing?
Again, this comes back to your metric that matters. So
Yes.
our metric that matters is first day purchase rate. We need to acquire customers who are going to place an order. An example of a really bad marketing funnel would be something like a free bottle of a cheap wine, because then you get a bunch of customers who are firstly only interested in really cheap wine. I'm talking about a really cheap stuff, four or
Yeah, yeah.
£5 a bottle. You only get the people who are interested in cheap wine. They're going to sign up with a card that doesn't have any funds on it. I've seen it thousands and thousands of times before. It just happens.
Well,
And so,
especially now with the virtual cards that are out there, it's just becoming
yeah.
wilder and wilder.
And so you're spending money, your CAC might be lower, but you're spending money to acquire a type of customer who firstly doesn't understand your product. Secondly, even if they did understand their product, they have nothing to gain from it. And thirdly, even if they understood your product and they had something to gain for it, they don't necessarily have the funds to be able to become a long-term paying member. So that's just, if you do that, that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of your metric that matters. Our metric that matters is first day purchase rate. So what we do instead is we would maybe do a cheap paid bottle, or a big discount on an expensive bottle, or 6 bottles of this fantastic wine at this great price, because the discount and the offer is still killer, but it's pre-selecting for customers who are of a higher value for you. They're interested in premium wine. They have the funds to pay some value of that premium wine, and they are already buying wine so that they can go on to be high value customers for you.
Okay.
And so that's how we optimize the marketing funnel to get the right sorts of customers. It's refining the funnel, the upstream funnel,
Mhm.
to engender the types of behaviors that you want to see on the app going forward.
Now, the types of wines and the way the app works, generally the average order value I can assume is more than a few 10 quid or 20 or 30 quid, and that generally then required someone trusting in putting credit card number in. Did you ever face a trust issue at the start when you grew, and are you still facing any of that issue, and if so, how did you overcome it?
That's always going to be the issue. That payment detail entry screen is always such a high barrier to pass. We can offer a free trial that goes some distance towards creating some of that trust.
Mhm.
On the wine side, we can make sure that we have great brands at low prices that you recognize. We can put in critic ratings, online ratings, user ratings to give you the impression that it's going to be a good wine that's worth your money. But fundamentally, that is always going to be a barrier, getting people to enter their payment details. I guess the only thing that you can say is that bit of friction does pre-select for a higher quality customer.
Does indeed, and does indeed. And do you would you say once your customers are onboarded, do you care about the repeat purchases, or is it still the first day purchase that matters?
This is why I would really encourage your listeners to think very carefully about what the metric that matter is,
Okay.
because we know that customers who place an order in their first day go on to have good behavior. So we don't have to focus on it. It's really hard for a team, a product team in particular, to like boost the retention rate on day 30 as opposed to day one. It's really hard to make sure that someone, renews their invoice on day 364 to go to day 365. Bits are created in the first couple of minutes interacting with your app. We know that people, if they don't place an order in the first 7 minutes, it's hard to change behavior going forward.
Well, that's incredible. How did you come to understand that? That's something that not a lot of people even explore and experience.
Yeah, it's just making sure that you have the tech stack in place to be able to track this sort of stuff. So we've got a great dev team. We use stuff like Google Analytics. The whole team is able to write SQL queries to do some of the data science stuff. So you know, we knew from the start that we're an app business and we're in the retention game. So we needed to know the customer behaviors and actions that create long-term retention. So once we found out that, if a user doesn't place an order in their first seven minutes, they're effectively lost, then that that's where 100% of resource should be going. And as to your question, do we focus on other metrics, or, what if someone places an order in their first day but doesn't go on to place an order? It's just of secondary relevance for us because we know that our time is best spent creating the habits up front on that first session.
Okay. All right. And when you're looking at the last 3-4 years that WineDrops have grown organically and also through ad platforms and everything else, which part of the original strategy has held up and which part has changed?
I think the original strategy was always to save people money, be really aggressive on our own gross margin, and make the profit back as a membership fee. That's stayed relevant. So that's still the business model, and we think it's a really nice alignment of customer behavior and our commercial incentives. It's good for the customer behavior because we want to onboard people who buy lots of wine. You only get value out of WineDrops if you buy wine. If you don't buy wine, you're going to get charged a membership fee for nothing. A bit like Costco, right? If you have a Costco membership and you never go in Costco, it's a complete waste of money. But if you go to Costco 3 times a year, you're going to save loads of money. So that's always been the strategy. Save money for people who buy wine. A part of the strategy that has perhaps changed is we used to do one big deal a day, and we wouldn't give people the ability to shop a wider range of wines. And that's changed a lot. So now if you go onto our app, we have hundreds of wines available on our shop, as well as that big deal a day. But we understood that people, they might want to buy a couple of bottles of the daily deal, but then you want to top up with a bottle of Moet or a bottle of Chapel Down. And our shop allows you to do that as well.
Okay. Now, as this strategy change is kicking in, what do you see as the biggest risk when the brand is growing, is accelerating and changing, what do you see as your biggest risk at the moment?
With that strategy in particular, the biggest risk is like SKU proliferation and a failure on the ops side. So we had a pretty rough November and December because we increased our SKU count hugely. We ignored the concerns of our third-party logistics provider, and we ended up with delivery times of 2 weeks plus during peak. And that is obviously, you know, a complete disaster because that is the time at which a lot of customers are interacting with your product. So I wish that we had way more discipline in not growing the SKU count too much, only having fewer, better wines, and therefore keeping the delivery times during peak, keep them at sort of 1 to 2 days. So that was a real letdown. And then more generally, you need to keep a sense of difference between us and our competitors. So Majestic, for example, great company, huge portfolio of wines at decent prices. We don't want to just be another Majestic. We want to keep that really aggressive daily deal that we're doing where people are discovering new wines at incredible prices.
Okay, all right. And if you look back in the last few years, what's the one thing that most brands in your similar category has completely overlooked and missed?
I think one of the areas that they've overlooked is this membership model idea. The membership is nice because it's a pure profit revenue stream. So it helps to ameliorate some of the problems in the wine industry, that it's historically quite a low gross margin industry. And so that really helps us to acquire good customers at a competitive rate. It's also, I think, positive for the customer because they're paying a membership fee, but they are getting great prices on wine. So they can easily do that maths. They can just back out. If I buy, 5 bottles a year from this company, I'm going to save the money back. And so I think the membership model does two things. It allows us to operate more efficiently as a business, with aligned incentives with the customer. But two, it allows customers to confidently move more of their basket spend to WineDrops, and as opposed to splitting their spend across, 10 different merchants.
Okay. And where is Wine Drops heading next? So you mentioned you've got loads more SKUs, product wise, community wise, or brand wise. Where is Wine Drops heading to?
So the big thing is the US. So in the US, we're known as Case Drops. We started in December and we've already grown revenue to be approximately 20% of the UK. So that's pretty
That's
fast.
that's incredible.
Yeah. And the reason why that's growing fast is because the US is actually a better market for us, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that people are more accustomed with membership models out here. So a third of US households are Costco members, and Costco is probably our closest analog in terms of business model. The second is that there is more gross margin across the whole supply chain in wine in the US. So there is more competitive discounts that we're able to do by undercutting the market. And the third is that it's a bigger population with a bigger middle class. So the total addressable market is much bigger for us out here. So we're really excited about the move to the US, and the early customer feedback that we're getting is great. In terms of where we're going in the UK, I would like to see us do more of the basics exceptionally well. So not lose focus on random side quests, but to get a range of SKUs, which is super competitive, highly critically acclaimed, lowest price in the UK, and then a customer service and delivery mechanic, which is ultra efficient, and wins the customer over 99% of the times.
Amazing. And if you were to start WineDrops again today, in fact, it sounds like you sort of have with US, what would you do differently?
Yeah, so I can talk about what we're doing differently in the US,
Please
and
do.
then that is basically the answer. Uh, so it's focusing on retention from day one. So, like I spoke about this metric that matters, this first day purchase rate. This is relatively new thinking on the UK side. So on the US, it had to be built in from day one. And what we're thinking now is let's not grow for growth's sake. Let's grow with the right customers doing the right things. And perhaps you brook a higher CAC, but you know that backs out across 3 years of renewal and use. The second thing that we're doing differently for case drops is we are being much more picky about the SKUs that we list on the app. So we are listening much closer to customer feedback. We are not buying wines that we think might do well based on our hunch. We are buying within a very specific set of guidelines. If it doesn't meet the quality standards, it doesn't get in. And unfortunately, this means that we're selling out of wines really quickly in case drops. So we're missing out on a lot of money. We're leaving a lot of money on the table at the moment.
It's a good problem to have.
Exactly. And we're certainly not burdening ourselves with wines that we're never going to be able to shift. Yeah, in summary, it's being basically a lot more disciplined about the wines that we buy and the customers that we onboard.
And the feedback you're getting, it seems like you have a community of people that you're always in touch and engaged with. How do you do that? What measures and how do you keep in touch with them?
Something that we've done for all our previous businesses, me and my co-founder Seb, we start WhatsApp communities with top customers. So all you can do is you could just go into your customer database, pull a list of hundreds of your customers over a certain amount of spend. Maybe you choose like top 20% of spend. And then you ask them, do you want to be a part of a community directly with the founders? You'll get this, and this bonus. You'll get some store credit, a free bottle, whatever. It doesn't matter what you offer because that is completely priceless to any founder to have a group of real customers on WhatsApp that you can just quickly ask questions. And we talk to these people at least once a week, asking them opinions on features, and they'll also report problems to you. So, I think that's one of the problems of being a founder is that you can't replicate the usage patterns of thousands of users on your app. You need to get feedback from more people. And so, we've got a community of 50 customers that are using the app on a daily basis and will report problems to us quicker than our customer service team can report them.
That's a really, really good pointer to a lot of people who want to build apps or build websites similar to yours. And what advice would you give to marketeers trying to build trust-led growth rather than campaign-led growth platforms like yours?
It goes back to the point about what are the building blocks for a good customer. So Jack Rubin at Purdy and Fig talks about this quite a lot, where you might run an offer that has a really great CAC up front, but the LTV is worse over a 3-year period. And you're just much better running the offers that long term yield better customers with better behaviors. And so don't optimize for the low hanging fruit or the quick wins. Don't optimize for a super cheap CAC because that super cheap CAC is going to come with crap customers. And so, understand the building blocks of customer behavior long term and create offers and marketing campaigns around that.
That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. And what is the one assumption about marketing that WineDrops has completely flipped on its head?
I think it's not really flipping it on its head, but there is something to be said of focus on a single channel. So we're constantly asked and offered to advertise across multiple channels. And again, I'm going to cite Jack Rubin at Purdy and Fig because he talks about this a lot, is that you can get to high 8 figures revenue by just doing Facebook and getting really good at Facebook. And ignore the noise around display ads, app display ads, radio, TV, paper, print, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. That there is just a huge amount of noise out there, and there's a huge amount of gain to be had from just focusing on a single channel and getting really, really good at that. And what I'm saying is certainly not groundbreaking, and it's not flipping the script, but it's a temptation we've had many times to open up a new channel to see if it offers, groundbreaking growth. And more often than not, the answer is, well, the offer or the product isn't right in the first place. Fix that, and then improve your ads on the channel that you were already advertising on.
Thank you so much, Jonny. That's wonderful. Thank you for all the details and all the stories that you've given us. I really appreciate it. This has been Jonny, co-founder of WineDrops. I really appreciate you having on Flipping the Playbook. If you like to get in touch with him, he's got his LinkedIn in the show notes that you can reach out to him. And please go and check out that because it's incredible. I use that and I certainly recommend it to a lot of people. This is a fairly new show. So if you have got any recommendations or any comments, please do share it with us and reach out to us. Thank you so much, Jonny.
Great. Thanks, Riza.
Flipping the Playbook is produced by SALT.agency. We don't just optimize for search and AI. We optimize for business growth across SEO content and digital PR. Check out our links in the show notes. Thanks for listening.